Well, if it's Thursday morning, it is time for another episode of the About Mansfield Consumer Advice Series. I'm your host, Steve Casillo, and appreciate you being here today. Chances are pretty good. In fact, I would actually put money on this. If you own a home here in Mansfield, you own a tree. I would think that that's got to be like in the 99 percentile here in Mansfield. If you own a home, you own a tree. And this is why every Thursday we offer these 10-minute nuggets of information. 10 minutes, that's a coffee break. And the 10 minutes of nuggets of information with our friendly neighborhood arborist, Cameron Scott, is here today again because he's a working man. He's in his car. And first of all, Cameron, welcome back to About Mansfield.
Thanks, Steve. Glad to be here.
And today finds you where?
Oh, I'm back up in North Arlington, north of 30, close to 360.
But rumor has it that you're coming to Mansfield later today.
Yes, I think it's technically Mansfield, but it's out in the middle of nowhere off Bennett Lawson.
All right. Very good. Today we are talking about and folks who are listening or watching, it's no secret. The guest comes up with the topics. The guest comes up with the questions, and I'm just the conduit to draw this information out of our guest. And so today we're talking about supplemental support systems in trees. When I was given this topic, I thought immediately, oh, we're talking about roots and stuff. And no, when I Googled it, we're not talking about roots. We're talking about support systems. And so, Cameron, let's go with the basic question first. What is a supplemental support system in regard to trees?
Sure. Yeah. Most people are unaware that these even exist. So tree support systems are used to provide supplemental support to leaders, individual branches, or even entire trees. This can be in the form of galvanized steel cable in the upper canopy, maybe a threaded brace rod through the main trunk, or even it's a guy wire to hold up some small trees until they get established.
Okay. Would that also include maybe ground to branch poles?
Yep. Those are known as props, and those are typically used on really, really old trees. You see them a lot in the deep south in Alabama, Louisiana, where they have these sweeping live oaks with these really horizontally growing branches. And the clients, they don't want to cut off these branches because they're really attractive. But the way to support them is to have a prop coming up out of the ground and supporting that low, heavy branch.
Yeah, I've seen that with old oak trees.
Mm-hmm.
And what does a supplemental support system do?
So the goal is to just limit movement, right? We're not trying to stop this branch that we're trying to protect from breaking. We're trying to reduce the risk of it breaking. So by doing that, we're trying to reduce the amount of sway that happens in wind. Maybe we're trying to reduce the amount of torque that's occurring in these major stems. The idea is that we're just making everything be one system instead of these littler, more independent systems, and the systems being branches.
I have some pretty good ideas of what types of trees, at least in my mind, are good candidates for a supplemental support. We were talking just before we went live here about my Bradford pear trees, and I thought those would be good candidates because the branches start so low in the trunk, and they tend to grow out. Bradford pears are notorious for splitting. That, again, is my mind of a good candidate of a tree for supplemental support. You're the expert. What sorts of trees are good candidates for support systems?
Sure. A good candidate for a support system is a really large tree, where there's maybe a co-dominant stem. Maybe there's two stem, maybe it's a double trunk, or you have a weak attachment point. where the risk of failure is heightened because of that. Maybe you have an overextended branch that's overextending over the house or the driveway or the sidewalk, something like that, that you'd like to reduce the risk of that breaking and falling. Um, Typically, Bradford pears are poor candidates for a supplemental support system because there's so many branches coming out of one point that by the time you got done putting rods in that tree, it'd just be a jungle gym of different rods, and there wouldn't really be a point to it because by the time we're done, you wouldn't really have much tree left.
Yeah.
The upper canopies, they're typically not large enough to install cables into because the diameter isn't big enough. Yeah, they're really just not a great candidate tree at all.
Hey, let me ask you this then, since you're the arborist and I'm not. People on occasion will use a tree instead of, say, a pole to extend a decorative lighting in their yard, and which may also require wiring. Is that
Mhm.
obviously it's not good for the tree? Is it doing damage to the tree?
So I get that question sometimes, and the short answer is, while it's not ideal, it's not the end of the world either. Over time, the tree's simply going to seal off those wounds. It's really more of a superficial wound that you're creating by hanging Christmas lights, or maybe it's landscape lighting that you're trying to shine down from the canopy of the tree. Um, yeah, or even a flagpole, or you just wanted to nail in even those silly faces that people like to put on there. It's not
Oh
ideal,
yeah.
but not the end of the world either.
All right. So now, question about this back to the supplemental support. If you're installing rods or cables, you're installing metal into this tree. Does that increase the possibility of the tree being hit by lightning?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So we've done some studies. Well, Bartlett has, as well as other people. It actually does not increase the likelihood of a lightning strike. However, if lightning does strike a tree that has a cable in it or a brace rod in it, the damage to that tree will be worse. So that will be something to consider when installing these systems.
All right, but it does not again increase the possibility of
Right,
being
right.
struck
There's
by
no
lightning.
increased likelihood of a lightning strike.
All right.
Um, we do. There is a thing called a lightning protection system for a tree. Maybe that can be our next topic.
All right. And then all right, you've got these cables and rods and props on the tree. How often should they be inspected?
Once a year. Once a year, come out. We'll look to see if the tree's starting to grow around the fittings. If that's starting to happen, then we need to look at replacing that cable or that brace rod.
In the minute or so that we have left in this 10-minute nugget of information, is there
Sure.
anything that you want to add to this? Maybe a recap or any additional information?
Sure. I'll just start with saying that the most common supplemental support system that I install are cables, and it's usually over a branch that's especially elongated, and it's over a house. So that's the most common occurrence.
And that's so that the branch doesn't lower itself into the roof and cause roof damage, or
Well, it's just to again just to limit the amount of sway in wind, connect it to the main trunk so it's all one system. It's not moving independently of each other. The idea is to reduce the amount of tension that's on the attachment point. And by including this installing this cable, you're creating kind of a triangle shape, which is the strongest shape in nature.
okay. If someone out there wanted more information about supplemental support systems for their trees, or have any general questions about trees in general, how can they reach out to our friendly neighborhood arborist, Cameron Scott?
Sure. You can call my office at 817-656-8733, or send me an email at cscott@bartlett.com.
Cameron Scott with Bartlett Tree Experts. And hey, you know what? I also, in doing research on your topics, I found out today that Bartlett Tree Experts has been around since 1926.
1906.
1906.
1906.
Okay.
Yep. Started in Stamford, Connecticut. Yeah.
1906. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Cameron Scott, we do this once a week, and let's do it again next week.
Sounds good.